All right, welcome back to Modern Mondays here at Guardian Games. We're Portland Paper. This is round two. If we're going to get personal, I'm Travis Cooper, hanging out with producer, disc golfer, director, and amazing shirt and yacht shoes wearer extraordinaire,
Ian Lunger.
and we're here watching a matchup of um, local favorites, I guess. You know, we have Bradley that's always playing a mountain in a deck, and we have Quentin hanging out with a turn one Ragavan on some blue red Murktide.
Love a player who's always playing a mountain in a deck.
And looks like that Ragavan ate a Fury and a Seasoned Pyromancer. What's the pitch? And I think Zeke's on the version that uh, Yellow Hat was playing for a while. That is on a one Snapcaster, one Serum Vision. As the flex slots, I think, just trimmed on the Archmage's Charm down to one as well. And yeah, Quentin was pretty well, did we just not play second land there? Oh yeah, drew it off a bobble. We had two bobbles, so we drew the second land a little bit late. And oh man, that's a rough sequence for Quentin to not draw the second land on turn two, then draw two lands after having used your two bobbles, so to not get a shredder trigger when you play that. All right, we're getting a boom bust here, so I guess Flagstones is going to be a target there, as well as the Spirelef Canal. Oh no, we chose one of our indestructible lands.
Chalice, really good here.
Yeah, Quentin's not playing a Brazen Borrower in the main deck. There is a one of Odawara usually in these Murktide decks, so that is your out sort of to Chalice. And then you play two drops with the Shredders, and you've got Murktide, so you're not totally dead to it. You have a whole lot, high density of one mana spells, though.
And Quentin, it looked like he's running Serum Visions. Is that become more common in this list?
Gabriel Nassif did pretty well in a challenge with a deck that I was, like mentioned a little bit before, that's playing one of Serum Vision, one of Snapcaster as the flex slots, and trimmed some charms.
Bradley going to drop the bridge. This is certainly going to stress what Quentin has available as far as bounce.
Yeah, so to be honest, that's probably game. There's only one Odawara on the deck. Perhaps you could build up a large enough board with Ledger Shredders and maybe some future Murktides to do a swing, one-off swing to bounce the Ensnaring Bridge. I think that is the only out that Quentin has at this point, but if Bradley has any live draws left in the deck, it's a pretty controlling position to be in.
Bradley rocking a couple of brown artifacts. Love to see the brown artifacts.
As opposed to the silver ones?
Yes, as opposed to the gray artifacts.
You like the mud, not the metal?
Absolutely.
Oh man, this is rough. Just throwing stuff into a chalice to then be able to loot with the shredder. And I bet Quentin has another Murktide hanging out in hand, trying to just build up cards in the graveyard for that.
Yeah, I mean, basically Quentin has to set up a board position where bouncing the Ensnaring Bridge results in a lethal attack. So I think that is probably the plan, and I agree with you that getting another Murktide on the board and tossing basically all of these meaningless spells in the yard is going to be the right move to get two Murktides that are big enough plus the Shredder that would be able to close out the game.
And we're going to have some digs for it. It looks like there's a expressive iteration hanging out in Quentin's hand, so we'll be able to look at some more cards.
I mean, between that and the Shredder, there's a real opportunity for Quentin to get there. Bradley's deck does not close out games quickly.
It's just really hard to be like, Shredder doesn't put you up cards, so if you're having to cast cards into Chalice as your second spell, you're reducing your cards each turn. So it not impossible, but definitely a pretty tall order.
Right. Yeah. The density of cards that doesn't matter is high, so tossing a lot of these away while you're going down a card every time is probably going to ultimately not be that big of a deal.
Okay, Quentin valuing having a land drop there, knowing that they could get destroyed, and kind of curious that Quentin didn't just pitch like a Consider or something to get the Shredder to hit for one more, but it looks like we're saving up for a counter spell. And that is a second bridge for Bradley.
So this is actually pretty big because Chandra's going to get countered, and Bradley was counting on resolving that to be able to uptick it to get red mana to empty another card from hand. So Quentin is going to be able to slam in again for potentially 7 damage. And put Bradley to 1, which will turn off the Sunbake Canyon. So, I mean, Bradley's got, like, is going to be in a difficult spot where it may actually be difficult. Okay. Looks like Bradley's scooping him up.
That's not how I saw that playing out.
Yeah, I mean, you can just get cards stuck in hand and you've got a land that's dealing you damage every turn. You can die fast.
Yeah, I just assumed that Bradley was going to be able to empty the hand a little bit quicker than he was able to right there. So it did make Quentin's keep of that counter spell off the iteration look like a really heads-up play there.
For sure. Yeah, Chandra an uptick into playing Boom, I think would have been big game.
One of the few instances where having a Murktide be smaller is better.
Yeah, it is. That is true.
And welcome everyone that's hanging out or just joined us in chat. It's always cool to have people being active on there, telling us we're idiots, mostly being right. And we are currently on round 2 of 4 here in Portland, Oregon at Guardian Games for Modern Mondays or Portland Paper. We're here most Mondays. Have a pretty good run so far. I think we've got like maybe 4 in a row that we've done. Summers are always a little bit iffy because things happen, people go on vacation. But we've trying to get other people hanging out in the booth and trained on doing this so that we can just keep doing this every Monday. And we'll be here next Monday.
Damn right. So it looks like Quentin is taking out, looks like a Darcy's coming out. Might have been a land that got removed. So we have all of 40 players playing tonight, which is pretty good, especially given all of the magic that was happening this weekend. Sometimes you see a little bit of a drain after a big event like the Puget Sound Battleground that happened this weekend, and you'll see a lower player count, but 40 is pretty good.
Yeah, it was kind of lulled there at the beginning of summer, but it's picked back up. There's RCQs happening right now, it's split between Pioneer and Modern, so there's a lot of people wanting to test out decks with Modern. It's been really fucking hot in Portland if you haven't been around or been reading the news, and Guardian has some AC and cold beverages here. So there is that brings people inside to throw some cards around, sling some spells. Chad asked how we did at the Team Trios event. Well, I did pretty good. I did fine. I lost one match there, but you know it's a team event. It's not an individual event, and our team did not do so hot.
That's right, Travis. It is a team event.
Yeah, I currently left them under the bus back in Tacoma.
Brutal.
Yeah, I think we did correctly identify our legacy seat that they would be playing the mirror a lot of 8 cast. And all the opponents that I think it was 5 opponents, 4 or 5 opponents in the mirror were a little bit more prepared with sideboard cards. So it was a bit of a brutal slog there. But it's fun. I really like team events, and I would do it again with the same folks. All right, Quentin with the Spell Pierce on the Chalice. That is very important. Always feels good to Spell Pierce the Chalice when you're on Murktide. I think most lists are playing 2 Spell Pierces. Some lists are even playing one of my favorite cards, Spell Snare as well. Love a Spell Snare. Both of those are very relevant against Chalice.
Gotcha.
Hopefully Quentin's got another counterspell, because we're trying it again. It is really interesting when you're playing the deck with like threats and counterspells, knowing that the deck you're playing against, if they don't resolve certain spells, you're highly favored, and you have to just play super carefully around your opponent, like resolving those. And I think that was played well on Quentin's side to play around that second Chalice.
Super interesting thing about playing a version of Murktide with less Dragon's Rage channelers. There's just a lot less emphasis put on getting red early. So Quentin has been fairly easily able to play around Blood Moon this game, and probably is not really too choked up on the red mana front.
And that's a great spot to dash a Ragavan in, knowing that it can't be bolted or furied, and then also getting your treasure so you can represent another counterspell here as well. But
there is not, in fact, another counterspell in hand, although it is represented. So,
curious.
We are going to see Bradley take out Quentin's red source.
Oh.
And the third Chalice on one is going to lock out the 2 Ragavans in Quentin's hand.
I'm sure Bradley had a moment there of like heart sinking when Quentin like cashes in the treasure, being like, it's a counterspell. I should have boomed the island. But no, in fact, it was just a lightning bolt.
No, and I mean, certainly feels good for Bradley to finally land the Chalice. You know you're locking out at least 1 Ragavan. You do not know you're locking out 2, but yeah, it's a good feeling. And at this point, you don't care about getting any creatures dead. You want to get Quentin dead. So Fury is on the board. Hoping, as usual, to dodge a Murktide Regent. The common position of decks playing against Izzet Murktide.
Well, it looks like right now Murktide would just trade with Fury. But things can change. But I do agree with you, that is one of the better draws that Quentin could have here.
Found it.
Yeah, and the math on this works out decently for Quentin. Quentin can take 6 twice, and then Bradley, let's see. Well, no, this is going to be, one of these players is going to have to do something. So Bradley is going to get to swing twice before he dies to the Fury. That's not going to, or Quentin's going to have to swing twice before he dies to the Fury, but that's going to put Bradley at 1, and Quentin's dead to 3 Fury attacks. So curious what's going to happen.
Karn and a Cleansing Wildfire in Bradley's hand.
All right, we're doing tradesies.
Interesting. So this clears the way for the Karn. And now the question is, what do you want to do with this Karn? It's protected from Unholy Heat and Bolt. So you could consider the plan of Liquid Metal Coating start to Stone Rain Quentin off lands, but it looks like Bradley's going to just present another very important hate piece in the Ensnaring Bridge.
Yeah, so I like that because Bradley can get ensnaring bridge in case something weird happens and Karn dies, and then the following turn can get the liquid metal coating if that's what he wants to do, then be able to cast it and yeah, have your piece that protects Karn first, and then go off with coating the next couple turns.
2 cleansing wildfires. The cleansing wildfire is a little bit weird here in that if you are doing it on your own lands, you're going to be drawing cards, which may not actually be what you want here. So you may just start doing it to Quinton's lands.
Well, Bradley will still draw a card.
All right,
yeah.
good point.
But I feel like leading with wildfire is good because then if you draw a land, that might dictate a couple things that happen here, where then you can play the bridge, and you'd be down to and Bradley would be down to 1 card, preventing the shredder attack. Otherwise, we might just uptick Karn. Quinton was hoping that Bradley would draw a land, and Bradley mentioning that they also were hoping to draw a land because they hadn't played one for turn.
We don't have a high-tech card picker that is activated by text. We have an old-fashioned Ian types in the card and displays it on screen card picker.
I mean, it's pretty tech savvy. You know, we're in the future here at Portland Paper.
That's right.
I mean, I do think, you know, our production value is pretty good, so.
But yes, I believe that was a missed connive trigger for the shredder, as there was both cleansing wildfire and ensnaring bridge.
That is true.
Played.
No, our card fetcher is not a channel bot unless Ian is a bot.
No, I mean we could probably get a channel bot, but no, we're Luddites, or I'm a Luddite, so you know, do it the old-fashioned way.
All right, we catch a connive trigger that time. Oh man, that's interesting to counterspell the Spyro there, because otherwise Shredder would have gotten to attack. I don't know if that matters that much, but
Yeah, you put Karn to 1, but I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with you. It doesn't seem like a huge deal. This is a much better position than last game for Bradley, given that this was a game where Bradley is not nearly as choked on mana, can very likely cast anything that is drawn. So the ensnaring bridges are actually going to be quite effective, whereas they were just not doing enough. Funny. So we're going to get another connive trigger here. And Bradley has decided to target Quinton's Spire Bluff Canal, so decided that we are flush enough with lands on Bradley's side that we're not super interested in continuing to ramp with these cards.
And also, I'm trying to think of the outs that Quinton has to...
3 bridges.
Yeah, because, I mean, one out would be boarding in engineered explosives, except you're hoping for a treasure off Ragavan to make that 3rd color, but with the Chalice on 1, you can't get the Ragavan out there.
Does the deck playing Jace?
There is still sometimes a Jace in the sideboard. Looks like Quinton might have missed a discard off the connive, so I'm going to go out there and check.
Don't worry, chat. We're on the case. Okay. There we go. Got the discard in. Expressive Iteration is going to see another iteration, an Unholy Heat, and a Bauble. Unholy Heat useless here, so we're going to see the Bauble, trigger another connive. Again, Murktide Regent. Most of the creatures that Quentin's hitting here are probably useless. I imagine, again, if there is a Planeswalker in the deck like a Jace, that is very much what Quentin is trying to draw to here.
I think Quentin is also a good enough player that you know, knowing that time is part of the match, that if there was not an out in the deck, Quentin would concede.
I agree. Yeah, I also believe that to be the case. What else might be available in the deck?
You know, I really don't know. There's Brazen Borrower, but that's not going to deal with like 3 bridges. So I think it is just maybe a one of Jace and Ensnaring Bridge.
Bradley's going to run out a Chandra here, so win condition is here. Looks like we're going to uptick to flip Sunbake Canyon, start ticking Quentin down. Chat noting, it is possible that the discard was, so there is an Engineered Explosives. Okay. Yeah, it's possible that Quentin did not discard a legal card to discard, given that it was after the draw step that the discard happened.
I'm pretty sure he did. I didn't actually look at what happened, but both of these players know each other well, and I don't think any of them like they would realize the mistake and what was in hand. So
yeah, okay, okay.
And you know, I'm gonna say that now that that Chandra's out,
Okay.
I do not think that Quentin can win the game anymore. Because even if Jace is in the deck, Jace is just gonna get hit with this. It's gonna get hit with damage here. So
Yeah, that's a good point. So that does make it much harder. Maybe, yeah. I mean, you know, it's of course possible that like maybe Bradley gets a little bit cavalier with cards in hand, and Quentin's able to sneak in a Ragavan attack somehow with Bradley missing Chalice and having extra cards in hand. But does seem to be a little tough.
Yeah, Chandra can't redirect anymore. That's right. The rule change. So just, but
Oh, thanks, Jet.
yeah. But Chandra is still a clock.
Although it is going to be a while before it hits the ult now that it's been knocked down to 1 loyalty.
Well, it's 7 turns for Bradley to kill Quentin with the plus.
Right.
And Jace takes 5 turns to be able to win the game. So we have a clock there. E on 0, blowing it up.
This does make sense. So now the Unholy Heats and the bolts are free. I don't think there are enough bolts in the deck to be able to take out Bradley's life total. However, taking the Chandra off the board could buy more time.
You're definitely playing to our outs here because if Quentin is able to then get in at one point with the Ragavan and make that treasure, then if an additional engineered explosives could be set to 3, I think Bradley is going to go on the blow up Quentin's land plan here and to try to just completely shut Quentin out of outs.
Okay, but here's the thing, Trav. If Bradley gets anything that does not cost 0 here, he will end the turn with 2 cards in hand. So this does free up the Ragavan attack.
Mm-hmm.
So, which then opens up Quentin drawing another engineered explosives.
Yeah.
Okay. Bradley plays it super safe here, maybe recognizing that the Ragavan attack is a potential threat, grabs the Tormod script.
I think Bradley literally just grabbed that because that was an artifact that costs 0.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think it's particularly relevant here necessarily, but yes. So Quentin runs out Snapcaster, and Bradley has to decide, like, do we even care about this? I mean, I think that the answer is, like, it's probably worth popping the Tormod's Crypt here just to keep Quentin from expressive iteration and just kind of continuing to churn through the deck.
I think as long as it's like high priority and you cast it, it comes out of the graveyard as part of the cast. Yeah.
So Bradley has Ragavan Consider in hand. Right, good point. Yeah, Iados Rogue noting that Karn is going to shut off the EE as a potential out, as long as it's in play. Although this makes it harder to get the Planeswalkers off the board. I mean, Quentin will have to reestablish Delirium for Unholy Heat to be a great Planeswalker removal spell. All right, the jig is up with the Ragavan. It is on the board, so Bradley with the fourth ensnaring bridge in hand. What a world. Looks like
All right, pinging Quentin for 2 there with Chandra. And playing our own Fury.
I like the Fury too, because basically it's like if you're going against a creature deck, like besides having Rhino as a card to beat their creature targets, like I'm gonna Fury your board every single. That's so good.
I mean, Bradley could start rumbling in with one of these ensnaring bridges.
there's iteration. This will give us Delirium. So Unholy Heat is turned on. So Murktide's going to go to hand. Cannot cast the Unholy Heat. So that Heat is going to languish in exile, and Quentin scoops him up. I think wanting to leave plenty of time for game 3. We never saw what the potential out may have been for Quentin. But, you know, it's possible that this was the long play to just get Bradley to think about possible outs. Maybe Jace doesn't even exist in the deck.
I was trying to play the Ragavan, Treasure, E.
Okay. Quentin even telling Bradley that he was trying to play for Ragavan and a Treasure and for the EE. But, of course, yeah, Karn is locking that out.
Well, I thought about it, and then I was like, well, that doesn't seem that good.
Oh, we saw Quentin's Jace on the board, says Maker Mov. I missed that.
No, that card is trash. I think that card's good in the right context. Probably not very good in your deck. I'm not a big fan.
So Quentin's taking a look-see here.
It looks like our backup match already finished.
Looks like at least one Murktide's out. The Jace came in there.
Yeah, I mean, Jace, good to have an alt win con in the deck for sure. That doesn't have to deal damage. Is it likely going to win the game? No, but you know, it's important to have some outs like that, and just being able to brainstorm. Also, when you're playing against something like a Chalice, where you could potentially have a lot of useless cards in hand, is also important.
Quentin's going to be on the play here too, and so like accelerating like a Ragavan into a quick Jace. There's not really a ton in Bradley's deck, I believe, that can just like take out a Jace that's coming onto the battlefield and plussed. It just kind of keeps plussing. I think it would actually be pretty difficult for Brad to take that off the board.
Also, I think just the value of saving one treasure token off of a Ragavan for Quentin with the engineered explosives, knowing that Bradley's playing 3 to 4 ensnaring bridges is going to be really important.
And chat noting that there might be a Spyglass or possibly a Needle or something in the board that would be able to stop Jace. Also a good point. Do you think Bradley's has any moon effects in the deck at this point?
No.
I agree.
Yeah, most of these Murktide decks are playing some amount, usually 2 Blood Moons in the sideboard themselves.
It's A relic, it's basically like a Boros prison deck.
It's playing a lot white and red and a lot of removal. So you're going to be playing like prismatic endings,
Just a
bolts.
straight up Wrath of God in
There's
hand.
Furies in the deck, and then Bradley's playing a Karn package. So Karn's a planeswalker, is able to tutor for artifacts from your sideboard.
I believe Quentin kept a one-lander here. And then did we draw another land? Looks like we did.
As someone who's played a lot of Murktide, you keep a fair amount of one-landers with a Consider, and you will keep some one-landers just with the Bobble, especially if you're on the draw, knowing that you're going to get 3, and if you have your first land as a fetch land, like 3 shots on a scry at getting your second land.
So Quentin has a Spell Pierce available here. Bradley firing off a Cleansing Wildfire. Interesting. So Quentin is going to let this resolve. What do you think about that? Just letting the Wildfire resolve rather than holding up or firing off the Spell Pierce there.
I think Quentin's has realized that he loses to a small number of cards that are in Bradley's deck, being Chalice and Ensnaring Bridge, and the Spell Pierce is going to be, at least in the next 3 turns, useful to hopefully snag one of those cards. And Quentin's probably really hoping to hit a land with this iteration.
And is rewarded. Both a land and a bauble. So looks like bauble to hand. I believe the bolt went into the bottom of the library.
And it's been really interesting to see how Ledger Shredder affects the play pattern of Mishra's Bauble in the Murktide deck, where a lot of times, even if you don't have a Shredder in your hand, you're not just playing out your Bauble unless you need a very specific card, because you're going to save it for that double spell with Shredder.
So pretty slow pace we have going so far. Who do you feel like this advantages in the matchup?
Well, you know, Quentin just got 2 permanents and trigger off of the Shredder, so advantage bar on Quentin, but Bradley does have this Wrath of God here.
Right, because Quentin does not hit a land. So if Bradley is able to hit the land, and we have the land into the Wrath here.
It's a solid 2 for 1. It does look like Quentin has Murktide and Shredder again in hand, so the rebuild, especially if you draw a land, is going to be pretty quick.
Bradley does have a bridge. Bridge, Karn, Cleansing Wildfire. So Quentin, I imagine, really hoping to spike a land here to be able to toss the Murktide down. Follow up with 2 threats.
I think hoping for a land or a Spell Pierce, which is why you wouldn't lead with the Murktide, even though it would end the game quicker.
Right. The thing about Spell Pierce that's a little scary is if Bradley actually has another land in hand, which we do, Spell Pierce is not actually helping against Bridge. And I feel like if I'm on Bradley's side, I take this time. Yeah, this is the time to make sure you resolve the Bridge. And then it looks like we're going to follow it up with a Boom that my guess is going to take out Quentin's red source and then target the... Okay, it looks like a Wildfire.
I think I'm targeting the red source by Bradley.
For sure. Yeah, I think you're less... Well, I mean, ramping another land for Bradley could make a difference in making sure that the hand gets cleared.
And we get a trigger off Shredder there.
So the Shredder should get another counter.
I think it's probably going to get a counter. We're just playing a little quickly, getting the land from the deck. And I think that's going to be Quentin's last island. Usually the deck only plays 3.
I think cutting Quentin off the land is big game here. So Travis is going to run out and just make sure we get that counter on the Ledger Shredder. Kind of one of those funny situations where it's beneficial for Bradley to have Quentin get those counters, as growing the Shredder out of bridge range may very well be big game. Gonna get in for 3. Bradley's sitting in a nice high life total of 16, so no immediate danger. Quentin does have the Jace in hand, so really hoping to get another land on board to drop that Jace. And it looks like Bradley's debating. We've got a Boom Bust, we've got a Seasoned Pyromancer. Bradley could just go for the straight up bust, which would just blow up all of the lands, but it looks like Quentin's got snap spell pierce.
Went for maximum greed there.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting whether, I mean, for the memes, that's definitely worth it. In the context of the game, it's possible that was like, again, a little greedy. But certainly, you know, you can make your memes, your dreams into memes if you do it that way. Three cards in hand allows the Snapcaster to get in. The Ledger Shredder has grown beyond the range. Okay, we're going to see the Seasoned Pyromancer run out here, maybe baiting the counter. Quentin's going to allow that to resolve, and Bradley is going to toss 2 lands and keep the Karn in hand. So no babies, no baby elementals gained.
Not super important right now.
Second bridge, Quentin's going to grab the Connive trigger. It has a counter spell in hand. I imagine we are going to see Quentin counter this bridge.
Oh, interesting to see the Ragavan pitched as well. I guess not having red, but that's an eventual out to the bridge, except for your, I mean, do you have the Otawara as well? Huh?
Yep, so I've got to think that we're going to see the Jace played here. Yep, to start to pressure Brad. And we should see, we'll actually see this turn if Bradley has the needle effect, whether it's a Sorcerer's Spyglass or a Pithing Needle in the board, because I imagine that we're going to see Karn. We're going to see Karn thrown down, and if that effect exists, I very much expect that we will see it. And Bradley's already tapped the mana. So Sorcerer's Spyglass likely incoming, and yes, that is what we will see. Nice guess, chat.
All right.
Sees the engineered explosives, names Jace. Seems like the correct play.
Well, now Quentin's on have to deal with Karn.
And Bradley with a backup Karn in hand. Yeah, Nickelby, it's an interesting point that, yeah, Quentin had been pretty actively getting rid of Unholy Heats.
It's so hard, I think, to go back after watching what happens in a game when you're playing against something like Bradley's deck, where it has hate pieces that do very, very different things, and you have to beat them in some way and get a little bit lucky that you have the answers to whatever specific hate piece it is. So yeah, I mean, at this point it looked like, oh, those heats would be really useful now, but it could be something, you know, where Bradley, you know, didn't play any planeswalkers and instead had a bunch of like chalices and bridges out. So it's sort of hard. Okay, we're gonna.
Yes. Yeah, we'll run out and reverse the bobble here.
Thank you, Travis. You're correct.
So, yeah, bobble will come back. Yep. Quentin fetched anyway, so the deck will be randomized. That's an easy, nice, easy fix. Good old Karn.
I can see that mistake very like.
Oh, it's
Both players miss
yeah.
that because you're thinking, like, when you see Karn, you're like, oh, that means I can't use this engineered explosives that was
Right.
my out for a thing. And you don't think,
Right.
like, oh, I can't use the artifact that is just, you know.
Yeah, it just does a thing every time I play it. Yeah, well, what's funny too is it gives Karn a free uptick to destroy the bobble. Yeah, McMaster J. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of information there. I think, you know, this is the best rewind that we can do to ignore that.
Yeah, and also there's no real way to like judge fix that.
Yeah.
It would just be a randomize the deck
Right.
is what would happen if for a judge call. So just mistake was made. That was slightly advantageous to Quentin there, but you know, in a comp REL setting, you get a warning.
I mean, the crazy part about this game is Quentin is still very much in this if we pick up Otawara. Like, bouncing bridge is still big game.
Bouncing bridge or even bouncing spyglass with a counter depends if you think Bradley has another spyglass-like effect in the sideboard.
All right, liquid metal coating, and Bradley has the backup Karn, so we'll be able to just immediately go to work. Gotta imagine that we're getting the red sources out of there first again.
Ouch. Yeah, that Fury could have come down. But can't really hard cast that now, and a pitch is not going to really deal with this Karn.
I mean, Unholy Heat still gets Karn off the board for this one more turn.
Well, I know Quentin's only playing one Snapcaster, so that's not a draw there. So I guess, yeah, just Heat. But I think we saw a bunch of those go to the graveyard.
So Quentin has, it looks like, Bolt, Fury, Engineered Explosives in hand.
It's like so close, but not quite enough.
Yes, yeah.
And the window is closing very quickly
Yes, it is.
with this liquid metal coating.
Yeah, Quentin is actually counting red sources here. The crazy part about this too is like, after this turn, Spire Bluff Canal is like, it will be a viable red source when Bradley blows up Quentin down to 2 lands, but it's not really like a viable red source if Bradley decides to kind of keep Quentin's land total higher, which I can't imagine we'll see that happen.
Yeah, and the thing is, Quentin's going to have Otawara and then 3 mana with his Ragavan out to be able to use the effect. So, yeah, I think in 2 turns we're going to be kind of locked out if Bradley keeps going and blow up the land plan of Quentin being able to have enough lands in play to activate Otawara's ability.
Yeah. Jace does make Otawara cost less, as does Ragavan. So Otawara's down to 2 mana at the moment. Oh no, Jace does not, right? Is it just creatures? Is it just creatures for those?
I'm pretty sure it's just legendary creatures.
Okay, so it would just be Ragavan that would decrease the cost.
That was not it. That was a fiery islet.
That is a red source though, so if you're Quentin, do you sandbag the red source a little bit longer? Looks like the answer is no. You will be able to crack this in response to the liquid metal coating and the Karn Plus going for it, so that's not nothing.
Chat was asking why not Bolt Karn and then Fury Karn. You have to pitch a red card for Fury here because Quentin doesn't have the mana to cast Fury, so you can't do both of those things. That's pretty brutal too because you can't, yeah, Quentin had to use a islet for the mana and not the card draw.
Right. Bradley grabs, looks like Fury and maybe Shatter Skull Smashing off the top. So,
Oh, that's an Otawara. But we're not gonna. I mean, I think you have to spike a counter spell, maybe here.
Still in the stack. Still in the stack counts.
So yes, the Shatter Skull is on the stack. This is the point where Bradley or Quentin is able to bounce for 1 cheaper. So it takes advantage, bounces the bridge. So now Quentin's looking at attacking and then maybe bolting Bradley out from here. Except again, the red sources are such an issue.
Well, I think what is going to have to happen.
So I think one of those Pyromancers can't attack, right? One was played this turn.
Yeah.
So we will, I believe, we'll just quickly there we.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Travis. We're the worst Magic players ever. Yeah, we're just terrible.
They're not the worst Magic players ever. They're not even close. They're great Magic players,
Okay.
Travis.
So I think what Quentin has to do is spin Jace for a counter spell, so you can counter the bridge when it comes back. Hope that Bradley doesn't have bridge in the board, or draw another Karn.
But you can't spin Jace.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably what Quentin was thinking too. Okay, yeah, this is it. Oh, crap. Because I was, in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, Otawara did the thing. I was like, oh wait, it did one of the things when it needed to do like many of the things.
Needed to be, it needed to be overloaded Cyclonic Rift.
Or like Force of Vigor or something.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted that Jace spin, but you know.
Quentin's got the 2 red cards in hand, no red mana.
Oh,
Just all dressed up for the party, but, and then, you know, the pressure keeps coming, so there's the Chalice on 2 into the bridge. Okay, a little surprised. Okay, so Bradley was thinking, why would Quentin have bounced the ensnaring bridge if we were going to attack and not get lethal? So I imagine that the answer in Bradley's mind was Quentin has counterspell up. So that's why we see Chalice for 2 followed by the bridge.
I mean, that was the out that Quentin had for sure, so I like it. You know, that or the one of Archmage's Charm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Bradley could have gotten got by the Spell Pierce there, but I think Bradley's read was very good given the situation.
We have a minute 24.
Such a tough spot to be if you're Quentin. You've wiggled a little bit, you know. You're like the vice grip is breathing down your neck, and you're just like you're squirming. You're trying to get out, but the prison is strong. Can't cast the Chalice on 1 when you have deployed the Chalice on 2, Travis.
Nope. Throw it down on 0. Or you could cast it and counter it.
Yep. Whew. Quentin still with the Fury and Bolt in hand, so could toss the Fury out there, but again, like, what are we accomplishing? It's not going to be able to kill the Chandra.
If I'm playing a little bit faster, if I'm Bradley, and I'm just flipping the card and passing the turn. Exile the Shredder.
Yeah, playing for a draw is very real if you're on Quentin's side. So Bradley's going to avoid the Chalice counter trigger, get rid of the Ledger Shredder by paying an extra white or red for his prismatic ending. Very heads up. Fury's going to keep Chandra from ulting.
Can't win in 5 turns now. But can win on, this is turn 1, win on the next, yeah, can win.
So Fury hit Jace. Again, not super important here. Chandra is the card that is important. So the question is, does Quentin have another fetchable? And that's still not going to matter, right? Because even with another fetchable, you're putting Chandra to 1. And Quentin needed to get Chandra off the board, period.
Yeah, I think Quentin doing the thought and the math in the head.
Yeah,
Going over what's in the deck.
is very often locked and loaded in chat. Most of the people in chat are far more locked and loaded than Travis and I, but
Hey, speak for yourself.
all right,
over there.
then me. All right, I will. Don't mind if I do. I think that's their turn counter. Okay, so we're in turn 2. Hi, Cute Bunny. Welcome to the chat, and it looks like Bradley is going to pick it up. Man, down to the wire on that match. What a fun one.
I do like watching these prison decks and then the folks play against them where it seems like, oh man, there's no way they've got the lock pieces out, and they're like, there's some outs if things go perfectly, and then playing for that to happen. Really gratifying when it happens. Also really fun to see it like almost get there, but then just the vice was like like you were saying, a little bit too tight. And yeah, with the spyglass, with the bridge, with the chalices, had all the things.
So we're like the Boros deck 1, so Boros Land Destruction Prison. Got the W.
Yeah, my sideboarding plan was like very like.
Yeah, better prepare for that at your next F&M.
Yeah, they're all bad. Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to break here just for 1 second, and then we just ended round 2 out of 4 here at Modern Mondays at Guardian Games. We have 2 more rounds in the finals after the next round will be coming up, and so stay tuned, hang out, and we will see you in a minute.
Well, it's a combo with cards.
Paper